This case uncovers what might just be the most prolific serial killer in the history of Thailand. And what's even more disturbing is how the elaborate schemes allowed this serial killer to continue to prey on the grieving families of their victims. She planned and executed a series of murders over more than 8 years by poisoning her victims. She manipulated the circumstances to make their deaths look like natural heart failures, ensuring that their families wouldn't suspect foul play. Her motive centered around financial gain, either inheriting her victims' properties or profiting off their debts. Doing this all under the pretense of offering to help them settle their debts or pursue lucrative financial opportunities that she would bring forward to them. We begin with around 10 or 11 in the morning. A woman was walking down to the riverbank to release some fish, a popular practice known as ploi pla. It is believed to bring merit and good karma. But then, suddenly, she fainted and collapsed to the ground. Bystanders quickly gathered to help, finding the woman unconscious. Emergency services were called immediately. By the time the paramedics arrived and attempted CPR to revive her, the woman had already passed away. The medical team suspected cardiac and pulmonary failure, likely an accident, as the cause of death. The woman was identified as Miss Siripon Kawang, known as Koi. She was a 32-year-old successful businesswoman from Kanchanaburi province. However, her parents believed that Koi's mysterious death was more than it appeared to be. She had no known health issues. Furthermore, several of Siripon's belongings, including cash worth approximately $1,400, 2 phones, an iPhone 14 Pro Max and an Oppo, her purse, and her car were found to be missing, raising serious suspicions about the circumstances surrounding her death. At her parents' insistence, authorities took a closer look into Koi's death. Reviewing the CCTV footage from the area, it was evident that Koi had arrived at the river with her friend, Am Sarawat, also known as Am. The two women had come to release fish into the river. Initially, they walked together, but soon they parted ways. Koi continued towards the river, but at some point, Am crossed the road. You can see Am standing here, just watching the direction of the river. Am appeared to be searching for something. After pacing around for a while, she appears to ask someone something. She seems confused and pointing in the other direction. Then she paces to the end, again appearing lost and exhibiting strange behavior considering she's meant to be with a friend. Then, the footage showed her running to the car, retrieving an item, and then heading down the stairs towards the riverside, where Koi was. However, after reaching the stairs, and soon after, Am walked back up, got into the car, and drove off as if nothing happened. To call this behavior strange is an understatement. According to Koi's family, she and Am had planned to release the fish together. So why did Am leave when Koi collapsed? Why wasn't she there to help her friend? Why didn't she stay behind to assist? I'm sure this and many other thoughts were racing through their mind. The police recovered Koi's car at the residence of one of Am's acquaintances. According to the CCTV footage, Koi drove the car to Am's place, and from there, Am drove both of them to the riverside. However, Koi's other missing belongings, including her cash, phones, and purse, were still not found. When questioned by the police, Am initially denied being at the river on the day. However, when confronted with the CCTV evidence, her memory seems to have returned and she admitted to being there. Am explained that she left the scene because she had some urgent matters to attend to. She claimed she believed that Koi was feeling unwell, and seeing that many people were assisting her, she simply assumed her friend would be fine. As for Koi's belongings, it was later revealed that Am had mailed Koi's missing items to one of her own friends, with the package sent out on April 19th. Amongst them were Koi's purse, her Oppo cell phone, and wallet. The rest were not found. What do you think? Do you believe her? Well, almost no one did, especially Mr. Rape Chamanruria. He would play an integral role in uncovering the truth behind Am's actions. From the moment he reviewed the CCTV footage, he knew something was off, but even he could not have anticipated the full extent of what they would discover. If Am was indeed responsible for Koi's death, how did she do it? The most plausible method was poisoning. However, the initial toxicology report showed no signs of poisoning in Koi's system. Koi's mysterious death dominated the news, capturing widespread attention. Soon, phones at the news stations and police stations started ringing incessantly. Reports poured in from people claiming that their friends and family members knew Am and had also died under similarly mysterious circumstances after meeting her. Alarmingly, many of these victims were found with darkened nails when they died. There were at least 15 such victims before 2020 and 2023. Yes, at least 15 in the span of 3 years. If she was indeed responsible for these crimes, how did she manage to rack up such a body count and stay under the radar for so long? Am was arrested on April 23, 2023, and news of her case spread like wildfire. People speculated on all her potential victims, and then another woman came forward, and she had reportedly loaned Am 250,000 baht, approximately $7,300. She told police that she experienced chest tightness and loss of feelings in her hands. She had taken a pill offered by Am during a meeting at a mall in Kanchanaburi province. Fortunately, she was immediately taken to the hospital and is now safe. Let's take a closer look at who Am really is. At the time of her arrest, Am was 36 years old. Her ex-husband, Vitun Rangasuwapon, was a police officer. After their marriage, they moved into the police accommodation and had 2 children together. Over time, Vitun advanced through the ranks, eventually becoming a high-ranking lieutenant colonel. This career success brought an improved lifestyle for the family, prompting them to move into a new home. Although Am and Vitun divorced in 2020, they maintained a close relationship, likely for the sake of their children. It's unclear when Am got a taste for murder, but amongst Am's more than 10 suspected victims, one of them was reportedly her recent boyfriend. You'll see there's a lot of death under mysterious circumstances that follows Miss Am. The boyfriend. Just a month before Koi's mysterious death, Am's boyfriend, Mr. Day, passed away on March 12, 2023 at 1:30 p.m. under suspicious circumstances. The pathologist listed the cause of death as cardiopulmonary failure. It was Am who called the police, stating that she was his girlfriend and she was pregnant with his child. At the time, no one suspected foul play. It was later uncovered that on the very evening of Mr. Day's death, Am went on to celebrate her birthday with her friends. Who in their right minds would do that? Am also pawned Mr. Day's gold jewelry on March 18, 2023, just a few days after his death. Additionally, she took control of all his properties. At the time, Mr. Day's family did not find these actions suspicious, as they believed Am was pregnant with his child. She should inherit all his properties. Day's close friend, who requested to remain anonymous, was very suspicious of the cause of his death, and especially after, because Am packed up Day's room and removed all his belongings. The media spoke with this man, let's call him Mr. Kung, and he knew Mr. Day since childhood. He is convinced that the child that Am is carrying is indeed the one she had with his friend. Day met Am through a dating app in December 2022, and Am frequently boasted about her involvement in the money lending business, claiming to pawn cars and land and engage in stock trading. She often bragged that her ex-husband was a deputy director, suggesting that if there were any issues that arose, she could rely on him to resolve them. May, Day's friend, recounted the day Day introduced Am to her for the first time on March 11th. After returning from work, she saw Day with a woman sitting on a marble bench at her house. At first, she wondered who the woman was, until she remembered Day had mentioned that his girlfriend was coming. That day, May noticed that Day's demeanor was strange, serious, and not very talkative, unlike his usual cheerful self. While the two of them sat together, it was Am who spoke more than Day, asking about Day's whereabouts and if there were any other women pursuing him, to which he replied he did not know. After the visit, the two left together. On the day that he died, Am called May to say something was wrong with Day. that he was bleeding profusely. When May arrived, she saw other people and Am in the room before the officers entered. Day was lying down, wearing only underwear with bloodstains on his mouth. She observed that Day's fingernails were dark, but his body was still warm. At that moment, she thought Day might have been under a spell or under the influence of drugs. Additionally, May noted that Day typically carried a lot of cash, but on the day he died, there was less than 10 baht found in his pocket. Day had mentioned to his friends multiple times that he had actually seen Am kill someone before, describing her as an evil woman. Now, because Day's friends were very suspicious of his death, they looked around, and that's when they found something that blew their minds. It was a bottle with a label marked UN1680, or potassium cyanide. Now, cyanide is an extremely toxic compound that can cause death within minutes of exposure, making it one of the most lethal substances known. It is odorless and tasteless, which allows it to go undetected in food or drink, rendering victims unaware of its presence until it's too late. The rapid onset of symptoms, including difficulty breathing, confusion, and loss of consciousness, can lead to fatality in as little as 15 minutes, depending on the dosage and route of exposure. Special tests, such as analyzing blood and tissue samples for cyanide ions or its metabolites, are often required to confirm its presence, complicating the investigation into suspicious deaths. In Thailand, cyanide is primarily used in mining for the extraction of gold and silver through a process called cyanidation. Additionally, cyanide is employed in electroplating to coat metals with gold or silver. Although its use is regulated, cyanide compounds may still be used in some pesticides and fumigants. The forensics team was able to identify cyanide in a shared vehicle that Am drove with her ex-husband. Following this, they obtained and executed a search warrant at her ex-husband's house, where they discovered a large quantity of unlabeled drugs and empty capsules. Her ex-husband claimed he had no idea these substances were just lying around. Similar findings were also made at her mother's home. These substances were all confirmed to be cyanide. In May 2023, at the Banpong police station in Ratchaburi province, the autopsy report for Nong Khoi came in. The report confirmed the presence of cyanide in Khoi's body. Am refused to speak further with the police regarding Khoi's death. When arrested, Am actually made the bold claim that Khoi wanted to take drugs mixed with cyanide, and she was simply fulfilling Khoi's request. She also stated that she was only able to obtain the cyanide because she acquired it from her now-deceased boyfriend. I swear, I can't make this stuff up. The things that comes out of this woman's mouth are just completely unbelievable. I'm not sure how stupid she thinks the entire world is, getting caught red-handed and still blaming someone, and then the simple coincidence of everyone around her simply passing away from cyanide, as if it's the most abundant thing on this planet. I just don't understand this woman. She should have just kept her mouth shut. She may actually have a chance of a defense attorney doing something to help her out, but maybe it's not about that. Maybe it's about getting justice for her many victims. It's innocent until proven guilty. I could still be wrong. She could be innocent. But let me know what you think, and there's a possibility that she was set up. I just highly doubt that. The police examined all the victims and mapped out the connections, revealing that each of them was linked to Am in some way, primarily through financial ties. But what's really unbelievable to me is that a lot of the victims were actually police officers. They likely met Am because of her ex-husband's connections. And even if police officers weren't safe, then who is? Am even targeted high school friends. I guess anyone who was linked to her was a potential target. One of her many schemes was the Rotating Savings and Credit Association, or ROSCA. A ROSCA is a group savings system where members regularly contribute a set amount of money to a collective pot, which is distributed to one member on a rotating basis until everyone has received their share. This system relies on trust amongst its members and involves no interest, making it an accessible alternative to formal loans. ROSCAs are particularly common in Southeast Asia and assist individuals in savings for major expenses or emergencies. It's an alternative form of banking and insurance where individuals form a collective that helps each other out. While ROSCAs played a central part in many of Am's schemes, she utilized different financial schemes to prey on her victims, which banked on the fact that the victim wouldn't live to see a benefit from any of them. One example would be borrowing money from them but at exorbitantly high interest rates, which would be lucrative for the victim if they actually survived to benefit. Am also had other loan shark scams related to gambling. In each of these transactions, it was really Am who was pocketing the money, the valuables, and more, and fleeing to the next unsuspecting victim. One might think that Miss Am would target the rich, but that's not the case here. She would target the desperate and needy. She seemed to know which scheme to use for which situation, and which target to maximize the financial gain on her end, even going far beyond what the victim had on hand. Am would test this out on individuals using Rosca to determine if they had enough disposable income. Once she had qualified a victim, she would lure them using schemes which promised to make them more money through various means, such as investing in a business, or even the ability to borrow some money by putting up a vehicle as collateral which was lost when the victim unsuspectingly passed away. One such victim was Miss Nitaya. Her case unfolded in August 2020. You see, Nitaya owned a Honda Civic, and she pawned this off based on Am's advice for 150,000 Thai baht. They went out for drinks together that same evening. Nitaya was found face down in the bathroom, and her face appeared darkened. The family at the time did not suspect foul play, as the doctor attributed her death to circulatory and respiratory failure. Nitaya had known Am for about 3 to 4 months at that time, and had initially connected through Rosca. But the real kicker here, folks, is that when she passed away, a company would contact her family and notify them that Nitaya had actually pawned off the car. Many of the family members targeted this way were distraught and simply coughed up additional money to retrieve something back of their loved one. The victimized family members had lost not just a loved one, but on top of it, had to pay additionally to retrieve a vehicle. They had no idea of the whereabouts of this money, but this money was actually with Am, who had tricked the victim beforehand to let her hold on to it, and she moved so quickly on eliminating her target that their family never found out. And of course, Miss Am disappeared with it all after, and this is pretty much how a lot of her schemes unfolded. This continued over and over again. But what really shocked me on the scheme involving cars is that the investigation revealed that some of Miss Am's victims' families were unavailable to afford the price to reclaim their loved ones' vehicles, which then allowed Miss Am to keep their vehicles, adding further insult to their family's suffering. But the most sickening part of this all is that Miss Am even went so far as to hire a lawyer to demand additional payments from the victims' families, further exploiting their financial distress. I also wonder, was her lawyer intentionally involved in these schemes, or did they simply turn a blind eye for the sake of earning an extra buck? It begs the question. Let me know what you think in the comments. Am's MO for carrying out these murders is that she would invite them over to temples, religious ceremonies, fortune-telling, or meals. When they met each other, Miss Am would offer them food or drinks, but these were spiked with cyanide. It's said that during the COVID-19 pandemic, she even provided her victims capsules of medicine or diet pills. Many of these contain cyanide. It's actually very scary. You have to think twice before even drinking coffee that a friend has prepared for you. Police continue to find victims of hers who passed away from cyanide. For example, one passed away as recently as April 1st, 2023. Surveillance footage showed Am sitting next to a police officer, Nipa, at a temple during that time. Nipa had loaned Am a sum of money, and Am had taken her for fortune-telling at a temple. And this is what happened next. The investigators were determined to find out how Am was able to obtain the cyanide. Surprisingly, they were able to trace the cyanide to a shop selling it right in the middle of Bangkok. In fact, the shop had sold over 1,500 bottles. And it became apparent it wasn't even difficult to obtain this online. Damn, it really makes me wonder, how many other crazy poisoners are there in Thailand? There's definitely other cases of cyanide poisoning from the country. Another method Am used to profit from her victims was through life insurance. Usually the victim would get a life insurance policy, which was collateral in case they couldn't pay Am back. Now, she would be entitled to the life insurance payout in case the victim passed away. And of course, the victim would have to pass away of natural causes, which by using cyanide gave the appearance of this. Unless the victims were specifically tested for cyanide, they all appeared to die naturally, and Am was collecting the payouts left and right. With all these schemes, Am is suspected of swindling hundreds and thousands of dollars from her victims. Police found 180 bank accounts with 78 million baht or 2.3 million US dollars, according to Nation Thailand News. She could have been even richer, but she allegedly would lose a lot of her money due to her gambling addiction. Of course, I won't call her a victim, since all her money is blood money, in the most accurate sense of the term. General Surachate stated, "We found that Koi's assets were in a pawn shop under Am's name, which served as evidence against her. When arrested, she wouldn't admit to any wrongdoing. The police even arrested Am's ex-husband and her lawyer, but later the court dismissed their cases because they couldn't find any direct links between them and Am." Now, could Am get the death penalty? Possibly. General Surachate characterized her as a psychopath who has no conscience or guilt. If she is found guilty, he stated that she could become the worst serial killer in Thailand's history. Capital punishment is rarely handed down, but Am's case is exceptional. The most recent execution occurred in 2018, marking the first time since 2009 an execution has taken place in the country. However, if Am enters a not guilty plea, she might avoid the death sentence in exchange for life imprisonment. General Surachate emphasized that serial killers must remain in prison until they die because this type of person cannot coexist with society. At the time of her arrest, Am was 4 months pregnant, but she miscarried months later whilst in prison. Social media was not kind with the comments, some even stating that it's good that she lost the baby. But they just resented this woman so much, and it's not surprising, because some of her victims were the family's breadwinners, and one had even recently welcomed a baby. Am has been swindling and murdering people since 2015, managing to do so without detection for years. Investigators believe Am got a taste for murder and her financial benefits through one of her earlier victims, a woman named Sai. Am offered to help Sai by looking after her properties while she lived outside of Thailand. One day, Sam returned to Thailand, and Am was more than eager to pick her up from the airport. She took her to her condo. The following day, Sai was found dead. Afterwards, Am took Sai's house and sold it. Afterwards, Am sold Sai's house and pocketed the money. Research indicates that female murderers often seek benefits from close relationships, while male perpetrators are driven by factors related to violence or dark desires. But regardless of motives, her body count alone puts her in the same league as many other serial killers. So my friends, the next time you meet someone, especially in Thailand, you better be careful. Make sure you know exactly what's in the food or drinks you're about to consume. Cyanide is far too easy to acquire for this not to be a problem. So stay vigilant, folks, stay safe, and have a look on screen for some other videos that might interest you. As always, please remember to give this video a thumbs up, and if you're not subscribed, why not? This is Victor, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.